Welcome to Wichita Weekend, the weekly public affairs program from iHeartRadio Wichita, 97.9 B98, 102.1 The Bull, Channel 963, and Alt 107.3.
This is Wichita Weekend. It's the weekly public affairs program on iHeartRadio stations KRBB, KTHR, KZCH, and KZSN. And it's our pleasure this morning to visit with Dr. Larry Mitnaul. Dr. Mitnaul is a child and adolescent psychiatrist at Ascension Via Christi, and he is a volunteer expert with the American Heart Association. And Dr. Mitnaul, it's my pleasure to welcome you to Wichita Weekend.
Well, thank you, Don, for having me. It truly is a pleasure to be with you this morning.
Well, I appreciate that, and I've got to let our audience know, of course, as we go into the holiday time, it's a little bit of a volatile time, isn't it, for a lot of families around?
It really is. This has been an unprecedented year in many unique ways. Both in terms of just with the health crisis and things going on, and just and all the many facets of stress and anxiety. And so I think mental well-being in many respects has become a real top health priority, both in the U.S. and certainly within the American Heart Association, and I think the organizations that we're seeing, and noticing that increase in stress that Americans are saying that they're experiencing, an increase in depression. It's really concerning, and certainly has shifted a lot of us to really encourage ways to promote healthy living and maintaining our sanity during these really upside down times in the ways that they can feel.
Upside down, inside out, you name it.
Right.
Yes. We watch holiday movies like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and we see all that dysfunction, and we laugh about it because it is funny, but that dysfunction's real for a lot of families out there around this time of year.
It is. I speak to so many families who, they intentionally did not elect to be the primary teacher for their child, right? There's a reason they looked forward to kind of outsourcing that, not because, perhaps they couldn't, but it's just, there's so much that kids get from both, being connected socially and learning from someone else. And so I think the back and forth nature of what school has looked like has put a lot of people in a tailspin. I can't tell you the number of people whose schedules they've had to work and rework between ranges of both, doing it at home or doing it live in the office, and then also trying to just manage, kids and their expectation, and also the changes in their year, both with extracurricular activities that maybe they were looking forward to, social gatherings, celebrating milestones too for both the elderly parent or for young people. It's really been quite a challenge, I think, for us to think creatively on how do we acknowledge those things, because they're really important in terms of our kids' development, in terms of our social well-being, but also, how do we still make them just as live and vibrant in our day-to-day lives?
It's a huge challenge. My wife and I are both empty nesters for years and years, and we look at each other every once in a while and we say, boy, oh boy, I'm glad we're not trying to raise school-age children right now.
My wife and I, we have 5, and it's been funny and fun, and sometimes makes you pull your hair out, although I don't have much hair to pull out, to do that dance. My 5th grader is just going remote for the next, several weeks into the Thanksgiving break. And then I think the presumption is that he'll be back, but maybe not in full form. And so I think this dancing on the borderline. You're not the first parent I've heard to say, I'm really glad that I've hung up my spurs and I have already left the nest on this one. So yeah,
my hat is off to them. I salute all those parents out there that have a house full this time of year. It can be incredibly challenging. And of course, kids like a little bit of structure. They like to know what they're going to be facing tomorrow and next week. And
they really do. They really do. And they take a lot of their cues from us. And so I think a lot of what I recommend, I think often parents are surprised that I'm talking about their self-care as much as I am about the child's too. But it turns out that our kids are really sensitive. They're not only sponges, but, often their antennae are up. What tricks us is that often they ignore us when we're asking them to do things like, picking up their room or cleaning. But and parents know when they've tested I think I have some chocolate cake left over. I mean, they're the first ones there. And so I think, when you think about as parents, when we are wearing some of the anxieties, and I'm just as guilty as the next, and not turning off, during the peak of the election cycle, having news, kind of blasting here and there, that the type of anxiety that we're carrying around, even when we think we're wearing it, cool and well, our kids recognize that, they recognize, when we are feeling overwhelmed as well. And so I think part of that is, part of helping kids is also kind of helping ourselves to bring in some positive practices in our life that help us to calm down, to help us to take space and take mental breaks, from the pace of the world sometimes. And then maybe instead of, just helping our kids when we see them being overwhelmed, maybe we're doing this together, and maybe incorporating some of those things as family practices to just kind of relax, push pause, and allow life to happen.
In case you're just joining us, this is Wichita Weekend, the weekly public affairs program on Wichita iHeartRadio stations. We're visiting with Dr. Larry Mitnaul. He's a child and adolescent psychiatrist at Ascension Via Christi, and he's a volunteer expert for the American Heart Association. And obviously, we are visiting with Dr. Mitnaul at holiday time. Dr. Mitnaul, for holiday dinners, etc., that, the health experts are recommending we scale way, way back, maybe not even have. Do you have any suggestions for families that are, trying to make a decision about what to do about that?
Yeah, I think certainly, as a physician, I'm going to recommend, the healthy practices that certainly our local leaders and communities are going to be coming up with in order to, help us all to be both together and yet distance at the same time. But I'd say this: I think one way to attack, or maybe approach is a better word, to approach having and feeling like you're getting all of what you want, out of these next kind of holiday seasons, is first maybe thinking about not just dwelling on the limitations. So maybe the table, won't be as, full with everyone as each individual, person, whether in the family or friends, are kind of weighing for themselves, based on advice from their doctor. Well, I have these medical conditions, or I have these things going on, and so it's probably in my best interest to maybe be more distant over the holiday. Is looking for ways to kind of reframe the situation and remind yourself that, hey, this is, a temporary thing, and that I can handle this if I take it kind of one step at a time. I think for a lot of us, we're playing out disaster scenarios. Yet, again, part of the reframe might be, good, I won't be judged on my turkey this year. I get a chance to do something a little bit different. And maybe that, that little extra bit of peace then allows you, when you're doing the FaceTime or the Skype or the, whatever it is, to also, connect and say hello to family and friends. It allows you to be both grateful for the moment, while still, acknowledging that there are parts of this right now that are limiting our lives. But again, it's not forever. It won't be a long-term kind of enduring thing, but it's what we're doing, hopefully right now, to just, to help one another, to love one another well.
Yeah, that's great advice, Dr. Mitnaul. Accentuate the positive and celebrate the good things.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm actually, I feel really grateful that this is the season that we're in. I mean, I think when you bookend, this fall with Thanksgiving and Christmas, I think these are really great opportunities. One, because they're different than our day-to-day, grind and schedules. So, so I think there's a greater emphasis, especially with Thanksgiving, starting with Thanksgiving, on how do we practice kind of gratitude in our life. And part of that is recognizing that, I may not have everything I want, but typically for most Americans, that we have all the things that we need. And so And so I think taking that kind of, mindfulness into the season, I think will be really powerful despite, again, our homes maybe not being as full with people as we'd like them to. One of the curious things, or maybe one of the interesting things, is that gratitude or thankfulness is actually a powerful tool that helps us to reduce levels of depression and anxiety. And it turns out that, people who practice gratitude or find some way to incorporate that in their lives, it also tends to improve their sleep outcomes as well. And so I think if we can, again, think creatively about how to do that, that might be, writing down 5 things each morning when you wake up, that you're grateful for over this, Thanksgiving season. I've seen people on social media too doing, 20 days of being grateful or looking for some way to be great to someone else, or to be kind, or to bring a meal or something like that. I think those are both restorative, and it turns out that it doesn't just help us on the inside, but it may help our mental health outcomes as well.
That is excellent news and excellent advice to practice a little thankfulness and gratitude. And that's a great suggestion. And that leads me to my next question, is Dr. Mitnaul, what do you see as the role of physical activity in helping us get through the holiday season?
I think it's going to be crucial, probably in a number of aspects. I mean, when I'm thinking about myself, it's mostly to work off all of the cranberry sauce that I will be ingesting. But we know that that exercise actually does a lot for our brains in other really wonderful ways. It turns out that physical activity also lowers our risk of other, diseases, makes our bones stronger and muscles stronger, but also our thinking. And so I think, often we don't pair these two things together, but our mental health is improved by the physical activity that we do. So, for instance, there's some really great studies looking at younger kids, and it turned out that if they were doing, 3 to 4 times a week, engaging in some, vigorous, moderate to vigorous cardiovascular activity, which is our fancy way of saying, they're sweating and their hearts are pumping, that they actually even tested better, that their focus and attention were better to the tasks they were given at school and at home. And so, and I think for those reasons, it's really important that we try to be intentional about keeping those habits, especially over this season. I think we'll feel better too through it.
Absolutely, it makes me think back to those years on very many Thanksgivings in my family's past, where it was traditional to have a post-meal basketball game.
Yes.
Seriously, and we take every big and small. We take them all out to the playground, and we just blow off some steam, and throw the ball up at the goal.
I love that. And then when the tryptophan kicks in, you've earned your nap.
There
right?
you go.
after playing basketball. But I love that. In my family, we would we'd throw the football around in the backyard. And usually it was, a Nerf ball, so it probably had some bites taken out of it by some of our furry friends in the backyard. But it was really a lot of fun. And I think especially as the night seems to come earlier. Yeah, now that we've had the time change, I think that in terms of losing daylight, sometimes we feel like we're losing some of that time to do it. And so I think again, being intentional and or maybe even bringing out the lights when you play in the backyard at 6:30 p.m. these days. It's just good. It's good for us. It's good for our kids. It's good for our well-being.
And Dr. Mitnaul, you mentioned furry friends. Pets can help. I was just reading the other day. Yeah, pets are wonderful.
They really are. And often, again, I think these are one of those overlooked things, both in the life of kids and sometimes adults, that pets tend to help us to be more fit. And they pull us outside of ourselves, right? So it's one thing to be, sometimes it's hard to muster the excitement for going on a walk or lifting weights or, going on a run. But if you have somebody making puppy dog eyes at you in the evening, it's harder to resist, going on that extra walk, doing that extra activity too that makes them happy. And so I think pets help us in more ways than one. And actually, there's some really good studies too showing that having a pet, it lowers your stress, it can lower your blood pressure. We've seen people with better cholesterol, blood sugar too. In addition to boosting kind of their overall mental well-being, their happiness. as well by having a pet.
You're making me think happy thoughts about my cat. I can't wait to get home to my cat today.
Good. Good. Your cat deserves it.
My cat acts like a dog. She gets all excited when I come home, and unusual. Well, just in case you just joined us, this is Wichita Weekend. It's the weekly public affairs program of the iHeartRadio stations, and our guest is Dr. Larry Mitnaul. He's a child and adolescent psychiatrist with Ascension Via Christi, and he is a volunteer expert on behalf of the American Heart Association. And we really appreciate you being with us in the studio today, Dr. Mitnaul.
Thank you.
You know, heaven forbid that a family should get into some kind of dysfunctional emergency type situation. But let's just say that this family decides to have a dinner and things go horribly wrong. Are there some resources, mental health type resources that families can go to right over the holidays for advice or an ear or a mediator? Do you have any of those kind of resources available?
Absolutely. So I think one of the resources that I really like, and I've been referring a lot of families to, the American Heart Association has a resource on their website called heart.org/bewell. And so it's really easy to remember because don't we all want to be well? And it has some really great tips for both, reducing conflict, looking for things that you can do to help lower your own stress level and incorporate some things to do, some mindfulness things, some meditative things, some healthy and kind of the exercise things we've been talking about as well. So what I find is that often in the heat of the moment, when maybe we're saying the wrong thing or we're in conflict, it's hard. It's hard to remember all the tools in your toolkit for better coping and relaxation. And so that's one that I'll often kind of refer people to. That listen, if you take a little bit of space for yourself and maybe do a little research or go to a respected source, it can help you kind of, be a little bit of an online therapist to help kind of bring some of that down. The other thing that I'd recommend is, it's not a bad thing if someone is recognizing that, every time I'm together or with family and maybe in other aspects of my life, maybe I'm feeling more anxious and nervous, or sometimes the irritability, frustration, anger can be a part of depression. And so reaching out to someone who does therapy can be really helpful to start the ball rolling and helping people to get more introspection and learn more about themselves. And then I actually have a website, LarryMitnaul.com, where I post things from both my YouTube channel and Instagram that have just rolling, articles and things like that talk about these kind of topics. How do we, diffuse or avoid, family battles around the holidays? And as a matter of fact, I think that's actually going to be my next video now that you mentioned it. But also on just kind of self-care, how do you defuse things? How do you help, take care of one another? Because we want to come out through this season of thanks, more thankful, not less, that we have the people that we have, around us.
Amen. And just in case you missed those two websites, we've got heart.org/bewell, and then Larry Mitnaul, that's MITNAUL.com. Lots of great advice there for families that are kind of muddling through the holidays and maybe need a few good ideas or just some great suggestions to de-stress and enjoy and be grateful for where we are, in life. So, Dr. Larry Mitnaul, what a fantastic guest you have been, and what a great interview. One more time, he's the child and adolescent psychiatrist he is a child and adolescent psychiatrist at Ascension Via Christi. He's a volunteer expert with the American Heart Association. And we have your family's mental and physical health and well-being in mind as we visit today on Wichita Weekend. Dr. Mitnaul, how long have you been a psychiatrist for kids and adolescents?
Yes, so actually I've been in the community for 3 years, and that as long as I've been doing it post-training. I think people might not realize, but doctors go to school forever, and I promised my wife that I would graduate before my youngest child. So I think if you count the 4 years of medical school, and then It's 5 years of training after having the MD, and that was spent in New Hampshire, and then we moved out to Kansas 3 years ago. So in terms of exclusively seeing child and adolescent, 3 years here and 2 years kind of in a focused fellowship at Dartmouth in New Hampshire before that. So
we're grateful you chose to move to Kansas.
I've not regretted it for an instant. I really love this part of the country, and you know, Wichita. Part of what sold us, honestly, is I looked across the country at many different places, and we came here, and I came here with my wife to kind of survey the area and meet people, and this was the first place and only place really that my wife said, you know, I think we can really be happy here. I love the culture, and people are just so nice and friendly, and so and that says a lot, especially for two people who spent a lot of time growing up in Texas too, in small towns in Texas, which also tend to be, you know, really quite friendly and personable, and so it's really been a great fit being here, and we're home. So we claim, people ask us where you're from, we're Wichitan. That's all we know.
You should, if you could see the smile on my face right now. I love to hear that, and I love your positive energy, Dr. Larry Mitnaul. It's you know, I came in this morning. I mean, let's be honest. You know, these are difficult times, and we've got at my house we've got financial you know, concerns. My wife's health is not the best, so this is. Kind of turn it around a little bit for me to visit with you just this morning, and think, you know, keep in mind to practice gratitude.
Yes. You know, again, that's one of those things, and it can be hard to think of, I think, practical ways to incorporate that as a party or as a part of someone's day. And so here are some of the things that I'll often kind of describe. You know, I mentioned the beginning the morning with writing something down, and maybe just a tad bit about that, which is, you know, often our day is kind of set by the things that we do. So, you know, if I have a kid who's coming to see me in the clinic, and they have had an excellent 2 weeks, they've gotten high marks, high commendations, really great grades, but that morning before they saw me, if they stubbed their toe on the way out of the door, they didn't get the fruit snack that they really wanted in their lunchbox. When I see them, sometimes they are having the most upset day ever, and the parent is looking, you know, at me confused, saying, "No, I promise, Doc, he's really had a great 2 weeks." And so, what is that? I think our brains are just really good for very great reasons, really good at capturing the negative. Right. I mean, I think, you know, if we think about our ancestors in the North African jungle, I mean, the first time you encountered that snake, you made sure that you never encountered that snake like that, you know, ever again. And so it's important to remember and to recall, you know, the negative things that have happened in our life. But it means that it takes that much more effort actually to remember, you know, the good parts and the things that we're grateful and thankful for. And so again, I'm not also speaking to myself as much as I am anybody else who might be listening. But you know, it's easy to get in the habit of, you know, I begin my morning by picking up my cell phone, and then if I click on the news, my Apple News, you know, app, I'm going to hear about, you know, the 10 most despairing things probably going on in the world, and it's unlikely that I have any strong contributions to making those things, you know, better in my life. Whereas I think the opposite can be true. If I wake up and start my morning rather with, you know, instead of the negative, if I start with, you know, here are the things I'm really grateful for. Like, you know, actually that back pain I was feeling yesterday, I'm not feeling it that much this morning. Okay. Right. So taking a moment to kind of reframe and set the day in such a positive way. Now, it doesn't ensure that, you know, nothing bad is going to happen to you for the rest of the day. But I do think that it greatly helps our day to be oriented towards finding something positive.
I love it.
You know,
I love it.
Yeah.
Dr. Mitnaul, are you familiar with the book Make Your Bed?
I like that title.
Well, it's by William McRaven, and he was the guy that led the raid on bin Laden. And basically, his point is, you get the small basic things taken care of in your day, and and do the basic things, the small basic things right every day. For example, making your bed or whatever. You're not turning yourself into a Marine, but you're setting a little bit of a routine and a little bit of a a daily habit to practice positivism, gratitude, whatever it might be. And if you can make those things habitual, you're a little bit ahead of the game and maybe more likely to kind of surf through some of these difficult times that we're all feeling right now,
I love that theme. I think that really speaks to me in a profound way, and it actually makes me think of the point that you made earlier about our kids and how they really thrive on kind of structure and a rhythm to their day. And I think that's one of the things that has felt most upended by both our prolonged spring break that began in March of 2020 to now, and then school beginning. And I think as adults, sometimes we think that all of those things kind of melt away. I don't really need that anymore. I can, live my life on my own terms. And certainly we can, we're autonomous, individuals who can make choices for ourselves. But I think we neglect that part of ourselves that actually responds wonderfully to having a rhythm of life, waking up and making your bed and, and having those kind of things that help set up or prop up your day. So I think you're spot on that those things are really, really helpful to kind of, guide us in the right direction. I think on the other end of the bookend too, that's another area that, often during the day and we get busy and, the texts start coming in and the emails start coming in. But at the close of the day, too, that's often another window, too, where I'm encouraging people to take an extra moment of reflection. And so, of meditation or mindfulness or whatever that is. Again, the temptation is I've done all these a million things. There are probably 10,000 other things that are unsettled in my mind. And now I'm just going to crash. I jump into bed after eating my ice cream and binge watching my favorite show, and perhaps we haven't taken that time in either, again, kind of prayer or just being kind of mindful of looking back on the day or just relaxing our body. Maybe we're not even reviewing, all the little kind of ups and downs of the day. And it turns out that there's good evidence and studies that show that meditation can really help reduce, again, blood pressure and improve our sleep quality, support our immune system too. And again, these are all the things we need. We need the strongest immune system we can, I think, during this season, improving our sleep, improving our health outcomes too. And so I think these are they seem like such little things, but that's what makes them so easy to not incorporate or to forget about and not make a part of our lives too. So I think if people can be intentional on that end, on the back end as well, that can be really helpful.
Dr. Larry Mitnaul, believe it or not, we have almost run out of time. You're a fascinating interview, and it is so timely this time of year to be talking about these techniques and these ways that we can get through the holidays with a smile on our face and get into the new year with a positive attitude. A couple more times here in case you want to check out these web opportunities to educate yourself a little bit. There's heart.org/bewell. And LarryMitnaul.com. You can learn a little bit more about Dr. Mitnaul's work here in the community and get some great ideas for yourself and your family. And again, Dr. Larry Mitnaul, a volunteer expert with the American Heart Association and a child and adolescent psychiatrist with Ascension Via Christi. It's been our distinct pleasure, and it's been a real honor to have you on Wichita Weekend today. Thanks so much, Dr. Mitnaul.
Well, thank you for having me on. Again, it's really my pleasure, and I'm grateful that you invited me, so thank you.
Thank you for listening to Wichita Weekend, a service of iHeartRadio stations 102.1 The Bull, Channel 963, Alt 107.3, and 97.9 B98. Listen every Sunday for Wichita Weekend.